Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of 5 Elements of Success Player Development Series. I'm Roger Knick, founder of the Golf Performance Center and your host. I'm here again this week with Tyler Campbell, Director of Performance. This week we also have Dennis Hillman, our Director of Coaching. Welcome guys.
Thanks, Roger.
Excited to be here. Hey guys, before we get started, COVID-19 safe. We're here safe in the audience, or I'm sorry, in the studio. You guys in the audience will make sure you guys stay safe, especially if you guys are out there playing golf, touching flag sticks, maybe raking bunkers. Please, no go. Keep yourself safe. Keep all those around you safe as well. Some housekeeping here. We wanted to say, if you have any questions, we want this to be interactive as much as possible. So please make sure that you're, sending us your questions. Maybe some comments. We want to make sure that we're actually answering things that you guys are looking for. Also, we want to make sure, say thank you to those who actually went in, took the grit scale test, also did the interview. Really excited about some of the information we got back there. If you haven't taken it, please go to the juniorgolfhub.com, take the grit scale test, do the interview sheet. Let's get that done. Let us help you in your journey getting better. So I think it's really important you guys get that done. So let's get started with the show. Tyler, let's do a recap of last week.
Absolutely, guys. So the first two episodes, we encompassed some great topics. In episode 1, we covered our 5 elements of success and how these are really the building blocks to your journey as a junior golf athlete. First element is the desire to improve. We dove deeper into that last episode when we talked about grit and how that's a common denominator. Grit, passion, and perseverance, actually, the 3 of those being common denominators in those at the highest level of their fields. The second element of success is physical performance and nutrition. We're talking about golf coaching today with Dennis Hillman. And we've got our mental approach to the game, and lastly, the equipment or the tools for the task. Last week, we dove deeper into the player development system. We're excited to roll this out to you. And really, the player development system has 3 components to it. The very first one is our self-guided assessment. All right, we covered the physical components or the physical tests that go into the self-assessment last week, and Dennis is going to talk to us more about that today. We've got our coach-guided assessment, and then lastly, we have our PDI full assessment as well.
Thanks, Tyler. This week, with Dennis Hillman, we're going to be covering coaching, our 3rd element of our 5 elements of success. We're also going to get into, technology and coaching and how technology is in coaching. That's so right. We're really excited about talking about that with you guys as well. So, Dennis, without further ado, let's tell the audience who you are.
Yeah, so my journey in the game started a long time ago, over 40 years ago. Growing up in a golf family, I started the game at about 4 years old. My 2 older brothers and I all played Division I college golf. My dad was a big golf fanatic. Over a lot of years, I played a lot of other sports, but about 13 or 14, I really honed my passion into golf and came up with some big goals to play the PGA Tour and become the best player in the world. So after all those years of hard work, ended up playing at a high level of junior golf and got recruited to play at the University of Tulsa. Played there for 4 years. Ultimately, was an All-American my last year, and kind of warranted continuing to chase my dream of playing the PGA Tour. So I played professional golf on the mini tours for about 4 years, and ultimately, settled down and got into coaching about 20 years ago. I've been the director of instruction here at the Golf Performance Center for 6 years now, working with Tyler and Roger and a great team of coaches, and working with juniors every day and helping them develop and having a lot of fun.
Well, we certainly have welcomed you here, and we think we're very lucky to have you here as one of our director of coaching. But you kind of left out a couple things there, Dennis, and I think what you guys need to know is this guy. He talked about his junior career, very high level player, and you had a time there where you played someone I think called Eldrick.
Yeah, Eldrick Tiger Woods. He dropped the Eldrick along the way. So that was a 1990 U.S. Junior, Lake Merced Country Club in San Francisco. It was actually kind of my coming out week, if you will, after putting a lot of work in over the years. At 16 years old. I was able to have a great week in the U.S. Junior. I was the medalist in the stroke play portion, and ultimately met Tiger in the semifinals. I was victorious there, went to the finals in the afternoon. Unfortunately, I lost on the last hole, so kind of a bittersweet week for me, but a lot of great memories and kind of propelled my trajectory onto the next level.
Yeah, well, bittersweet. I mean, one of the few people could never say that took Tiger Woods down, right? I mean, that's pretty amazing accomplishment as a junior player and someone, as you said earlier, you're kind of going through this whole process and you've been around the game for a long time. but you didn't really have a program or a system in place that helped you kind of understand where your journey was going to take you. You knew you had the dream, but you didn't really have that player development system as you have now. Yeah. But now as a coach here at the Golf Performance Center and understand that player development system, what would you tell yourself at 13, 14 that, since you have a little bit more wisdom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing I would go back and tell myself, because I remember getting frustrated a lot of times along the way. Whenever you have big goals, you're going to have frustration and struggles along the way. So I would go back and tell myself that struggle is a key part of this process. So when you're struggling, that's really when you're improving. So you want to seek out those moments. Find the ugly zone, as performance coach David Allred refers to it. So I think that's the first thing I would help myself understand, so I could really, perhaps enjoy the process and really make it even my development even better. Secondly, I think I would tell myself or explain the 5 elements of success and how all those things impact how you play the game. Having really a swing-centric technical focus back then and trying to lay the groundwork there, but I kind of thought that was the be-all end-all. If I got my swing perfect, like Ben Hogan or whoever, then I would be able to master, ball striking. But there's so much more that goes into it when we talk about shooting low scores. So, I think it would have been beneficial to understand that at a younger age. Ultimately, it took me many years of struggles and all the way to professional golf to really understand everything that goes into it. Yeah,
so you talk about struggle, you're talking about being in the ugly zone. And that's really just the challenge of developing over time. And I think, we talk a lot about, and, we've talked about a little bit in the last couple episodes of, that skill challenge ratio and understanding that just where you are and having a marker to say, I know where I'm at in this process, so I'm not, kind of underestimating the challenge of especially competitive golf. And I think, most of you guys out there in the audience are actually looking to play competitive golf, maybe college golf, and that's a big part of this, right? I mean, so knowing that and I think understanding that, there's a prodigy syndrome out there where they think, this talent's born and, hey, if you don't have it early on, you're not going to make it, right? So talk about a little bit about that and what you found.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, talent's a factor, and innate talent is a real thing. I mean, it's based on your genetics, but ultimately we know in the game of golf is a skill-based sport, and your talent or genetics are only going to take you so far. There's a tremendous amount of effort that needs to go into it. So we look at it as talent times effort, equals skills. And then skills times effort equals achievement. So it's a long campaign of commitment to deliberate practice over time that's going to develop that. But having a way to really assess yourself objectively and really measure where you are is really beneficial, so that you can adopt that growth mindset that we talk about. You are not born with this with the skill to play golf. Tiger Woods was not born with it. He developed it over many, many years. So understanding that you can take that information and develop a plan to get better over time is really powerful.
Yeah, and we talk about the player development system as a layering effect, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you've got, you're developing skills at one level, and then it goes to the next level, and it's a continuum. And we know that how important on the physical side, that is too, especially, for the junior golfers that are out there who are going through, peak height velocity, growth spurts, if you will. Tyler, can you speak a little bit about how that combines to skill to acquire?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've kind of introduced in the past few weeks how function dictates form, and we really want to train athletes different than adults in the sense that, their systems, their neurological system, their cognitive system, and their physical systems are all developing much more rapidly, in the adolescent stage of life than an adult. So bringing, coaching techniques and philosophies that might work for a professional golfer or an avid adult golfer is not how we want to handle junior athletes. All of those systems are still developing, and I think it's important that we, manage that at the right times of development.
Yeah, so parents out there, just understand, we think that juniors are different than adults, and I know often we hear how, juniors are compared to tour players and what a tour player is doing, and, I think our philosophy of the player development system kind of says that differently, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's commonplace out there. A lot of teachers or coaches really approach coaching juniors and tour players in the same way, but there's different stages of development. We know that it should be different. So really understanding where you are athletically on the physical side is a key part of this, because these are the stages where you're laying the groundwork or the foundation for development over time. Most likely, if you've got big goals of playing college golf or beyond, your goals are long term and they're far out. So you're going to want to put the effort in to lay that foundation now, and understand how that relates to your golf skills.
Yeah, so it's almost kind of reverse engineering, kind of what, you know, you're looking at your goals and then it's like, how do I get there? And this is a big part of that, and understanding that, you know, you mentioned it earlier, is like that failure to success and that ugly zone, if you will, and that struggle zone. So that's really important for these players to understand that.
Yeah, no question. I love that mentality, reverse engineering. So if you're going to write down goals, start 10 years. Those are the first goals you write down. And then reverse engineer it all the way back to what's my 1 month goal, and then what's my plan. So, you know, on the golf side, on the physical side, so that can be really powerful. And then find out where you are. That's really the key to the whole thing. Let's really find out objectively, not where you think you are, but where are you? And again, you can improve those things.
Yeah, that's really important. Again, the player development system for us is a way that we can start to quantify that potential, and obviously more college coaches, and you know, so they're looking at this as a way to kind of start to look and differentiate talent, something that we've been doing now for a long time. And I think it's really important to kind of, you know, measuring those skills, you know, where I'm at with my skill side, where I'm at on the physical side, and then where am I with my performance side of things. And that gives us a score, what we call our player development index. And you know, if you can talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, PDI. So ultimately, as Tyler talked about, self-guided, coach-guided, and then the PDI full assessment. There's 123 shots, a series of physical screens, and identifying your power and strength. So seeing your athleticism. We know that college coaches are looking for good athletes, and you know, if you're 14 or 15 years old and you're not going to play college golf for 3 or 4 years, and you won't be a senior for 6 or 7, they're looking for those lead factors. What are indicators that this junior might develop over the next few years into a really good player? And it's great information for you to know everything that influences how you play. So, you know, we really look at it as quantifying potential, understanding where you are, and it's a great resource for coaches to use.
So parents, juniors out there, just understand you're not born with this. There's a process that's put in place, and you can reach your ultimate goals. Again, Dennis mentioned, you know, reverse engineering your goals, you know, set them out there and then work that plan. I think you have a better chance of making it. Dennis, we're here today, you know, mainly to talk about those golf skills in the self-assessment. If you can, you know, go through those challenges so the audience will know what to do.
Yeah, so I'm going to guide you through how you can take yourself through the self-guided assessment on the golf side. Last week you learned from Tyler the 4 physical screens you can take yourself through. So 39 shots total. There are 4 basic areas. So the 4 basic areas of the game, if you will: driver, iron control or approach shots, short game, and putting. So we've selected some key skills within those areas that you can go through. At the end of the day, we know the name of the game is to get the ball in the hole in the least amount of strokes possible. To do that, we know you have to control the golf ball through all the different golf skills. To do that, you have to control the club face. To do that, we know you have to control the path of the club. And to control the movement of the club, you have to control your body, or what we call static to dynamic posture. That's why the physical side is so important to understand how that relates to how you're moving and how that affects your skills. So in Tiger Woods, well, the first thing I'm going to show you is the 9 ball flights, something that Tiger Woods spent a tremendous amount of time and energy in his practice dedicating himself to, because he knew that was such an advantage over other players when he could access pins better using those 9 ball flights. So that'd be the first skill assessment I'm going to take you guys through.
Dennis, as you mentioned that, and I think it's important that all the audience out there understands this, that, you know, Tiger Woods spent an enormous amount of time on controlling the golf ball. Sure. Ben Hogan, you know, Jack Nicklaus, all the greats, right? I mean, there was reasons why, you know, Hogan won. He wasn't the longest player out there, but he knew how to position the golf ball in the fairway to access the whole locations, the greens that day, and that is what it's all about, and that's playing golf, and that's learning how to control the golf ball. So if you aspire to play at those high levels, you're going to need to learn how to control the golf ball.
Yeah, there's no question. At the end of the day, I know there's a lot of focus on power these days in the game. We know at the end of the day, that's going to take time for you to develop, regardless of where you are with that. But ultimately, you're going to have to control the golf ball. You know, the long drivers are not the best players in the world. They just hit it the farthest. So the name of the game is to control the golf ball and understand everything that impacts that.
Oh, great. So why don't you go through and show the audience what those skills are, and you know, let's get everybody out there getting their self-assessment going.
Yeah. So first area is the 9 ball flights. So I'm going to take you through that. As you can see, the image up here of the 9 ball flights. So it's adjusting the trajectory of a 6-iron from low, medium, high, draw, straight, and fade. There are 9 combinations of the way you can make the ball fly to any particular target. So before you go through this, the 39 shots total, go ahead and warm up like you're preparing for a tournament. Okay, so once you start with the 9 ball flights, once you say this is my first nine ball flight that I'm going to hit, there are no mulligans, no do-overs. You are going through it just like you're in a competition. So the last 2 or 3 warm-up shots should be with a 6-iron, so you can determine kind of your average trajectory, if you will. So once you've done that, you're going to want to determine a 20-yard wide target. So we do have an easy guide on the juniorgolfhub.com of how you can determine a 20-yard wide target from the tee line where you do not have to go out onto the range and laser it or pace it off. So go ahead and follow that guide, again, if you're not using a simulator. So once you begin, if you have a partner with you, that's great, so that you can have somebody help you be objective and validate whether you actually executed the shot or not. So go ahead and go through this in any rotation that you're comfortable with. So go ahead and declare that I'm going to hit a low draw now. And for the shot to count, it has to have the intended flight. It has to land within the 20-yard wide target, and it has to fly a minimum of 80% of the full distance for your 6-iron. So go ahead and rotate through each of these 9 ball flights 1 time each. So you'll get a score out of 9. So once you're done, record your score. We look at anything 7 or higher as green or proficient or good mastery of the 9 ball flights. Anything below that would be either a yellow or red range, and we have some prescriptions on juniorgolfhub.com how you can practice to improve those skills.
Dennis, I'm a young player and maybe 10, 11 years old. I may struggle with some of these things. And is that normal, or should I be able to, hit these 9 ball flights? Is this something that you think is I'm supposed to do?
No, absolutely not. So this is the highest level of golf. This is the ultimate demonstration of your ability to control the golf ball. So again, Tiger Woods separated himself from the other best players in the world, being better at this. So it's a great form of practice. So something that you can revisit over and over again. Going through this with intention and with consequences and actually recording a score is a way to really practice this skill under some pressure, and then hopefully be able to transfer that into competition. So definitely don't look that you should be doing this. If you get 1 or 2, that's completely acceptable. We see that all the time.
Dennis, I would just elaborate on that quickly and say that the physical component is a significant part of executing these skills, right? So as an athlete gets stronger, they grow, they're a little taller, they're going to be able to create more club head speed to be able to actually make the ball shape that's required. So there's a physical component, again, to the golf skill set.
That's a great point, Tyler. So there will be some club head speed needed to get enough spin on the ball for it to curve and also adjust trajectory, particularly the high ones. So if you're at a younger age, 10, 11, 12, and maybe don't quite have the club head speed, you may struggle with these, but it's still a great form of practice, and at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun. Have fun with it. Learn how to shape the ball different ways.
Well, that was one of the things I know you shared a story with us a while back, and we've talked about it often, how the best players, in their practices go out and hit these shots all the time. A lot of time it's part of their warm-up, just to understand the relationship between path and club face, but also just because it's fun and it's different, and they know that, hey, maybe someday I'm behind this big tree and I have to hit a 40-yard hook, i.e., Bubba Watson at the Masters, where he hooded his wedge and hit this almost 70-yard hook with a sand wedge, and ultimately end up winning the Masters because of that. Yeah,
that's a great point. I mean, he didn't learn that shot right there at Augusta National. He'd hit that many, many times. So there's no question that Tiger was known for doing that from a young age. He said he would just go in the trees, and he hit enough drives in the trees because he didn't hit the ball that straight anyway, but he would throw more in there and just practice all kinds of different shots out of the trees. So definitely a great skill to learn.
Yeah. So you got the ball flights.
Yep, so next one will be driver targets. So we're going to move on to that. So this will be 6 drives total. Should be pretty simple. First thing is to determine a 40-yard wide target. And just to reiterate, there's no warm-up for your driver now. You've already done your warm-up before the 9 ball flights. So you're going to go right into these 6 drives. So you can use the same guide that you use to determine a 20-yard wide target and just double that and determine a 40-yard wide target. Pick a couple markers out there, whether they're flag sticks, bunkers, something in the trees. Go ahead and hit 6 drives. No need to draw it or fade it. Whatever your go-to shot is fine, as long as it lands within the 40-yard wide target and travels a minimum of 80% of your full distance, it counts. So you can go ahead and get a score out of 6. Anything 5 or 6 we would consider green. Yellow or red would be below that, and there are, again, prescriptions on juniorgolfhub.com of great forms of practice to help you with your driver control. Next, we're going to move on to wedge control. So this is an abbreviated version of our wedge control section. So we have a 3-yard, a 10-yard, and a 20-yard ring out there. The 3-yard ring is 3 feet wide. The 10-yard ring is 6 feet wide, and the 20-yard ring is 12 feet wide. So you're going to hit 4 to each, but not in order or not in a row like that. You're going to cycle through, go 3-yard, 10-yard, 20-yard, and cycle through it 4 times. And we're only looking for landing spot. As the graphic shows you, the ball lands in there, it can bounce out. Most likely, 99% of them are not going to stay in that ring. It's really just, can you control how far the ball goes in the air with a chip or a pitch? So you cycle through it 4 times, and you get a score out of 12. And just to clarify, if it lands on the edge of the ring, it does count. You get a score out of 12, so anything 10 or higher would be considered green. Below that, yellow or red range. Again, we have some great forms of practice to improve your chipping or pitching fundamentals. Also to clarify, you can do this off the fairway or off turf. Just a good lie for basic chipping, pitching fundamentals.
Right. And part of that too is you want to make sure that the environment is consistent. So when you're testing yourself, it's not off of different environments, unless you're just really looking for that ugly zone quite often, right?
Right. No, absolutely. This is a measurement. We're isolating specific skills, so we're just trying to see basic chipping, pitching fundamentals here.
Yeah, good.
We'll move on to the putting section. So last area, be 12 putts total. The first graphic here is showing you a 3-footer and a 10-footer to the same hole at 90 degrees to each other. We're looking for a hole on a putting green with little to moderate slope. For any of you aim pointers out there, that would be about 2% slope or less. So you can go ahead and select a 3 and a 10-footer at 90 degrees to each other. And then the last one would be the 30-footer. So this right here, you can separate this into 2 uphill and 2 downhill because it is a lag putting or speed control test. If you do 4 of the same, that's fine. What you're trying to do from 30 feet is leave the ball within 3 feet of the center of the hole. So if you have a yardstick or ruler to help you do that, otherwise, you can maybe use a pitching wedge, which is usually about 35.5, 36 for an adult set. So hit 4 putts total there. So you're going to cycle through these 3 different lengths 4 times again for a total of 12 putts and get a score out of 12. We're looking at it very similar as far as anything 10 or higher would be considered green. And then below that yellow and red range, we have prescriptions for some great forms of practice to help you not only with your lag putting, but also short putts.
Yeah. Dennis, thanks. Guys, gals out there, make sure that you go get your self-assessment golf skills done. Tonight, that's going to be live. You'll be able to log those in, get those results. Again, if you haven't done the grit scale portion of this, get that done, do the interview so that you can actually lay out what your, reverse engineer what your goals are. That's what that interview sheet's all there, there for, is so we can actually help you and develop your plan for your development. So Dennis, thanks for sharing that. I think that was phenomenal. We know those are the basic skills that every golfer needs. I mean, it's Absolutely. Not like we're not asking them to do what tour players are doing. We're just saying, hey, you need to have these skills. You're going to hit a driver, you're going to hit putt, you're going to hit wedges, you're going to hit irons in the green. So you got to control the golf ball. That's it.
Let's just find out where you are and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about being an athlete. We're talking about playing other sports or sampling other sports before you come into golf. If you're doing that, fantastic. We know that those have relationships to us when it comes to coaching them and helping them develop their golf skills further. So coaching an athlete versus a golfer, I think those are some differences there as well.
Yeah, so fortunately, being here 6 years with you guys, we've seen a lot of golfers come through, young junior golfers, and some have come in where they've early specialized in golf but haven't played a lot of other sports, And then we've had some come in as really good athletes who are just getting into golf. And I think we look at their development or where they are in their development probably a little bit differently. You know, the good athlete who maybe is just getting into the game is probably farther along, because we know your development as a golfer begins with playing other sports, because better athletes make better golfers. And to verify that, just turn on the TV. When they get back out there again, you're going to see some good athletes out there with very athletic backgrounds. So we look at it much differently. We want to quantify the skills, but we want to really understand the athleticism and how that's such a key part of laying that foundation.
Yeah, and I know, Tyler, we were talking about it on the physical side of things and how important it is, you know, and as an athlete's coming in, maybe even developing, you know, going through growth spurts, right? I mean,
Sure.
So really important to understand that skill acquisition, again, relates back to function dictates form, and as they're going through these growth spurts, it matters, and they may struggle a little bit.
No doubt. You know, as you're really approaching a growth spurt or going through a growth spurt, we talked about this last week, we're going to mention again today, about the awareness of the club face and awareness of the movement of your body and where you are in space. It kind of disappears for a little while and it feels a little funky, and it's normal. Essentially, just know that in time that'll slow down, and you'll start to get that awareness back, and you know, really be able to kind of take in that information of those new skills and new positions the golf coach might be asking you to manage.
Yeah, thank you. Dennis, one of the things we talk about, we hear parents come in a lot, again, is we're talking about athletes and developing athletes and golfers from, you know, maybe other backgrounds. But we also have people that come in, and parents will come in and say, hey, we've been fortunate enough to get on TrackMan or K-Vest or Swing Catalyst or other technologies, and think, hey, I've got all these numbers, it shows my kid has this talent. But we know technology, you know, obviously it's a plus for us to measure things, but at the same time, you know, making that the coaching, it may not be the answer, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, we're fortunate to have a lot of great technology here. We've got K-Vest and Swing Catalyst, TrackMan, gears. So they're great tools to measure things and understand those things. Ideally, you're going to want a coach to help interpret that information and take it and build a plan to develop over time. I think what happens out there is people get in this mindset and they get on a technology and they want to kind of make it happy and just get that metric that they want immediately, rather than saying, okay, let me really take a step back and understand what's really causing me to move like that, to cause that metric. So I think that's really important to understand. Dennis,
too often, you know, you hear of young juniors who will be on the lesson tee, if you will, and the coach might have good intentions initially in giving a cue, you know, let's just say, hey, you know, I need you to get this number to be a little bit more positive, or, you know, the other way, hey, let's make this number a little bit more negative. And in a sense, the coach might just be trying to convey a feel to the athlete, you know, but not understanding what that's going to take a toll on their body. There's a reason that they're moving the club the way they are. And compensation and injury that risk goes way up if you're just simply trying to change a number on the machine.
Absolutely, you know, that's well said. And I think that's the point, is to really trace this back to function dictates form. Understand, why is your body moving like that? Because if you just try to, you know, get your angle of attack up when it's down, you can definitely do some things to hurt yourself, just as one example.
Yeah, I mean, how important is it for them to understand that as you're going through these challenges, you know, there's more sample size to what's happening, right? So, you know, as they're going to go through this, the self-assessment, and they get to the coach-guided assessment, and then obviously you got the ultimate and the full PDI full assessment. But what's the reasoning for the sample size changing?
Yeah, no, I think we really wanted to give you guys something that you could execute on your own with some of the key skills, right? Because we know that the ones I just took you through are really relevant in the game. But to get the PDI full assessment with 123 shots instead of the 39, and then on the athletic side, physical side, it's such a deeper dive into your movement and really starting to connect more dots and understanding cause and effect. So on the golf side, we know there's an array of skills from flop shots to bunker shots. So we include everything. You know, isolate the skill, you know, put it under the microscope, assess it, and then say, okay, here are your strengths and weaknesses. We know with that information what we need to do, the plan we need to build, and execute it.
Yeah, so that's great. So let's recap of what we've done and talked about this week. Again, we talked about the PDI self-guided or self-assessment, and, you know, the golf skills challenges. really important, for this segment to go along with the physical side of things and the grit scale test. We talked about talent and maybe the innate talent and talent, how it's built and developed. We also talked a little bit about the coaching and technology and how those things may differ, but they're also dependent on each other, which is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I know next week we're going to get deeper into coaching versus teaching,
sure,
and why that's important, and how philosophically there's no one way to do this, but there's other things to think about, right? As we talk about the player development series.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think we're going to take a deeper dive into development versus the quick fix. Again, that mindset of going for a lesson and trying to fix things. You're going to find something that might work for a while, but it's going to be fleeting. So we really want to dive deeper into helping you guys understand, what does a plan look like for long-term development over time that's proven and that you guys can really engage in.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for being here. Guys, we're going to take some questions now. Alex, do we have any questions from the audience?
First question from the audience. I have a launch monitor at home. Can I use this for the self-guided assessment?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely. Again, just follow those guidelines as far as how to measure yourself. You can do it without a launch monitor, but with one, it can go ahead and help you verify the adjustment of peak height. Again, for low trajectory and high, we want that 15 feet adjustment up and down. It can help you verify side spin if it does that, and it can also tell you how far offline. So yeah, you can absolutely use it to verify.
Next question. How would I know if my junior golfer has a talent for golf?
Yeah, I think that's a great question as well. That's the point of these assessments, right? So you look at the PDI full assessment and understanding the physical assessment as well, we can quantify that, right? We're quantifying, where is that talent, where is that potential? I'm sure your junior does have potential, but we just need to find out where it is, honestly, and then build a plan to develop it.
I think more than anything too, this goes beyond handicap or beyond scoring average, right? This is allowing us to look just objectively at particular skills that are involved in the game. And obviously the last component of that would be putting it all together, on the playing field, if you will, or on the golf course. So I would say, you're under the microscope. Show us what you got.
Lastly, you mentioned innate talent. What exactly is innate talent?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think we look at that as kind of what you're born with genetically, right? So, okay, what do I have? I mean, Usain Bolt has a different genetic talent than me. We know that, right? So, but in golf, being more of a skill-based sport, we're really going to need to develop that talent over time. So we're just looking at what you're born with, and then we can use that.
One story that came up this week as the three of us were preparing for the show was we were thinking about this and how, different outside of golf. Let's look at areas outside of golf for a second and see where talent shows up. And Mozart came up, who's a world-renowned famous composer, and he wasn't born with the ear that he eventually developed. He wasn't born with the musical skill that he eventually developed, but his environment, his effort, obviously became world-renowned and famous.
Well, again, back to the idea, for your parents out there is no prodigy born. I mean, obviously we do have genetics, and obviously it could help if you're given the right environment, given the right tools, given the right coaching, and develop the skills over time. And obviously you got to have that passion or love for what it is that you want to do. So there is no, hey, I'm born with this and therefore I'm going to be great. So I think just it's a lot of it is go out there, as Ben Hogan used to say, dig it out of the dirt. So let's dig it out of the dirt. Get out there and get yourself, working on those skills that you need to develop that talent that you want to have. So that's a big part of it. So we have any other questions, Alex?
I think that's it.
One question just came in. If you live in an apartment complex, how do you do this? Or how do you complete this test?
Well, that's a great question. If you don't have access to golf facilities, I think, ultimately, I think ideally you're going to need some kind of golf facility to do this. The way to do it indoors would be with a simulator. If you have access to that, I think you're going to need something, to be able to either see the ball flight or a projection of it to determine it.
Yeah, I mean, I know maybe some are struggling right now to get out to some facilities. I know that's going to be very difficult just because of maybe COVID-19 and maybe don't feel safe. I would just make a recommendation to you. Just hold off. Get yourself to a facility, or maybe to a PGA professional near you that has some access to a facility to help you go through this. So yeah, I mean, it'd be tough if they don't have some type of technology that you can use inside your apartment.
I would say you can still do physical stuff.
Still do the physical, still do the grit scale for sure.
You can still get your physical components nailed down and start working on those.
And you can do chipping. Obviously, you can do parts of it. Those are the things that you can start with. So be patient. Hopefully, you get out there and be able to get it done soon. Any other questions? Alex, thanks so much for your help today. Again, everyone out there, we want to make sure that you're staying safe. Golf courses are opening, so get out there and play some golf, have some fun. We want to say thank you to our sponsors, Ethan Allen Preparatory, achieving your greatness in the classroom, on the golf course, and in life. Also, the juniorgolfhub.com. Make sure you guys, juniors out there, get your profiles done. You'll see that the 5 Elements of Success Player Development Series is out there on the Junior Golf Hub. So make sure you log in and also, don't forget, you can research schools. I mean, now's a good time. If you're not out there playing, you're not seeing, college coaches, do some research on some schools. So it's a great tool for you. Again, we want to say thank you to everybody who's participated. Keep getting after it. We want to see you guys back here next Tuesday, 12 p.m. Tyler, Dennis, thanks so much. Great information. Enjoy your journey.
See you next week.